it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. This book is going to be one of the first books I somewhat annotate because this book is actually already filled with annotations, but they're not mine. I picked up this book at a half-price books, and when I was looking through books for my readathon last month, I came across All the Bright Places, opened it, and saw that there was already some writing inside. On this very first part, it says, "To my angel Alex, you are and always have been my bright place." Now, I've watched All the Bright Places, the movie, before. I don't remember all the little plot points, but I do remember some of the major points. And I feel like this person, whoever left these notes for me and I, are going to have a cathartic experience, I feel like, especially with the subject matter that's dealt with in this book. So I am going to tab the stranger's annotations, and then I am also going to make my own. I'm really curious to see what they have to say in relation to this person, and if it so happens that the person who made these annotations is ever watching this video, thank you for giving this to Half Price Books and allowing me to, kind of see a little bit into your world. Let's go get some tabs. Okay, so we've tapped quite a bit of All the Bright Places so far, and in general, I'm enjoying this book. I mean, it's one of those YA contemporary books. I think what's making this extra interesting is trying to figure out, the person that annotated this for me. I have pictures of all their annotations, but one that I saw that I don't exactly know, sparked, one of their annotations, I guess, sparked something in me where they wrote next to a quote, "Don't let them forget me, Alex." But at the beginning, this person said, "To my angel Alex, you are and always have been my bright place." So I thought Alex wasn't around anymore. I don't know anymore. It's so interesting to see other person's annotations because with my annotations, I'm thinking about lines that relate to me or that just stand out. And, this person obviously took a very special approach to it. I'm just not sure if it's because something happened to them or something happened to Alex. I'm not really sure one way or the other, and I don't see any clues on the book. We're just gonna have to keep reading, not only to figure out what happens between Finch and Violet, because like I said, I've seen the movie. I feel like the book is pretty different. I don't know, I'll have to rewatch the movie after I read this, but I also feel like I want to figure out what happened to this stranger that I'm annotating with, because I hope both them and Alex are okay, especially because in the book I feel like death is shown in multiple ways. And so I'm not sure, what parts the person who annotated this before me exactly connected with, but they clearly connected with something pretty big. All right, so I'm about 80 pages into the book, and we just got to another annotation because this person who's leaving annotations, sometimes they underline stuff, sometimes they put in words. I've mainly just been underlining. I don't really know in terms of tabbing. I do want to try adding words later, maybe not this book, but a different one. This person wrote, "Don't leave me, please. If you ever truly cared about me, stay alive." I don't know if this person is grieving, if they ended up giving this book to that person named Alex. Not 100% sure, but I, for some reason, feel like they knew the ending of this book before picking it up, because the ending of this book is really sad. I think the movie ending was very sad. I don't actually know about the book, so I feel like this person had some prior knowledge before leaving these notes, was probably intentional with choosing this book. So I'm really interested to see where this person's mind is going to go. Again, I'm just annotating things that stick out. I'll share my last annotation. Mine was on page 75. It says, "I feel we can't go through another of those terrible times, especially when there's so much else to do. For me, I thought it was interesting because that quote came from a suicide note, but then Finch added that ending of especially when there's so much else to do, which, you know, I think to me talks about like the will to live and moving forward and having hope. And so that's why I underlined it. But I think this person and I have very different perceptions when reading this book. All right, so we are on page 106 of All the Bright Places, and the annotation that's making me stop is there is a quote in the book that says, "You have been in every way all that anyone could be. If anyone could have saved me, it would have been you." And then our mystery annotator says, "This is my fault, not yours." I'm really curious like what this person went through, because, you know, a lot of the lines that they are underlining feel like pretty sad and pretty personal. I feel like I'm not underlining those as much. I feel like I'm underlining more of like the sweet moments. This is how far we are into our tabbing and annotating. So I still have quite a ways to go, but I'm curious to see. There was one annotation that the person had actually a few pages before the really sad one, where Finch's mom says, "Did you just call me mom?" And the mystery annotator says, "My mom's reaction when I had a phase where I talked like Hermione Granger." And I feel like that was the most positive annotation I've seen our mystery person read. And I think this just brings an interesting conversation of like, you know, books can be such an escape and a reflective place. And like, I'm reading this more just because I'm interested in it, but it sounds like the person who annotated this was really going through something where they needed that kind of reflection and feeling like they weren't alone. And I'm just curious, you know, how that experience was for them. And I also hope they're doing okay. Like, if I had a student that had annotations in this book, especially knowing how this book ends, like, I would definitely want to pull them aside and check in on them and make sure they were okay. So I might keep annotating, I might not. I also lost some of my tabs because I had the tabs on my book, then I pulled my book and the tabs went flying. So that's my bad. So I have 7 out of 8. Whoopsies. Like I said, we're gonna keep going. I'm at page, like I said earlier, I'm at page 106. There are 378 pages, so I'm almost a third of the way done. All right, we are back reading All the Bright Places. This is the second day. I think I may be gonna get an hour in. I wanted to share a quotation. It's on page 128. The stranger annotators highlighted, "I guess you can be yourself, whatever that means, the best and the worst of you, and they love you anyway. You can fight, but even when you're mad at them, you know they're not going to stop being your friend." And this person wrote underneath, "I love you, you stayed, you never gave up on me. My one regret is that I never got to make you feel the way I did about you." I feel like the annotations are like making me tear up, on top of the, like, again, knowing how the book ends and being, you know, kind of like sad about their relationship anytime I like pick up the book to read it. I feel like I've definitely been avoiding reading this book because like I don't want to read such a sad book, but I know I need to. And I feel like knowing that a stranger related to it so deeply, I don't know, makes me want to like push through and keep reading it. So again, we're on page 128. I think, you know, I'm not very much farther than where I stopped off in my last clip, but I thought that quote is really impactful because, again, I'm not sure if they had like a breakup, if one person lost their life, if this Alex person is no longer with us. Not 100% sure. When I was flipping through to find what page ends this, I did see that there's like a longer paragraph. The person wrote it like near the end of the book. So I'm really, really curious to see what our stranger annotator wrote. So we're only 7 more pages past where my last update was, but we got to the before I die wall scene, and I distinctly remember that in the movie. And this person made an annotation. Oh, this person is just like so close to bringing me to tears. They wrote, "Before I die, I want to mean something to someone, to have touched their heart, to have made a mark so that somebody cared that I was here." And oh my God, it just, again, you already feel heartbreak in this book with the death of Violet's sister very, very early on. And I don't think that's a spoiler. I'm pretty sure that's in the description. But then the book just continues to like wear on your heart. These annotations are just getting to me. Like I don't know when this person annotated this. I don't know what they went through. But I really hope they were able to like touch somebody's heart. I mean, like they're touching mine, even though I don't know them, you know, being open and honest in this book. I don't know if they ever thought anyone would see it, but you know, I feel like they're touching my heart with their words, and I like wish I could give them a hug. Alrighty, it's the next day. I did not get to page 200 last night. I got interrupted from a call from my mother, but that's fine. I'm on page 168, and we have just like full-blown lyrics from Linkin Park, Leave Out All the Rest. I've never heard this song, so at some point, I definitely want to play it and see if it matches the vibes of this book. Not 100% sure, but this definitely gives me, I don't know, I feel like hints again of maybe how old the person is. Because I feel like, Linkin Park, I feel like that was popular in the early 2000s. I feel like they're not a band anymore. I'm not 100% sure. I might have to learn more about Linkin Park than I was expecting to. But I know that they have more of that like darker emotional music, not like upbeat pop vibes almost. I feel like that's almost on par with what the person's been writing before. But yeah, I definitely want to. So far, at least I think I'm halfway done. No, I'm not. I'm not halfway done. I am really missing that fourth like pink tab for the other person. I have no idea where it is. I might have to get more tabs for them because I think I'm gonna run out. I don't know. But I like the color scheme so far. And I think I have other pink ones somewhere, or if not, I have like some yellow, which like I was trying to match the vibes that are on the front of the book, the pink, yellow, and light blues. We'll see if I need to get more tabs. I don't know in like the next book that I seriously annotate if I'm gonna have this many tabs, what it looks like. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm really interested to see how much more this person has written in this book. Okay, so we are on page 234, and there is a long annotation from the person who was writing this book, and it says, I've never been important, I've never been beautiful, I've never been selfless or a hero or an angel, but you always saw me that way, and you tried so hard to make me believe it, and I'm so sorry that I couldn't. I'm sorry I broke my promise. I never meant to hurt you. The words I love you don't even begin to describe how I feel about you, so please forgive me, Alex, I love you. It's interesting that to me, like, sad of a annotation is at this part of the book, because at 234, we just saw Violet and Finch like officially get together, and they are, I think at the high point for both of them. Like throughout the book, Violet's been counting down days to graduation. Finch has been counting up days that he's been awake since his last like asleep moment. For this chapter, they both changed to the day of. So the day of them like first, officially getting together. And like this is, I think, the happiest point of the book, and it's gonna go downhill from here, if I'm correct, especially if I remember what I've like seen in the movie and whatnot. Almost like we're entering a third act breakup, but worse in like a romance novel. So I feel like this person maybe watched the movie first and then read the book. If I'm reading it for the first time and I don't, I hadn't seen the movie, I feel like I would think like, oh yay, like, right? You have all the bright places. They're getting to their bright place. What I would expect from here on out is a third act breakup, of course, and then them getting back together. But again, from the movie and whatnot, that's not what happened. And so I feel like this person saw the movie, got the book, and then annotated it, but I'm not 100% sure. And again, I still just want to give this person a hug. I don't know who they are, but I'm like very concerned about them. I'm glad they're feeling their feelings, but I hope they're okay. A little bit nervous. And I also don't know if this was in like the annotator's possession or Alex's possession, who the annotator's writing to. Interested to see. We still have, a decent amount of the book left. So that's how much we have tabbed so far. My tabs are the blue, and anything in like the pink lighter colors are the stranger annotation. So they have a lot more annotations than I do, which I think makes sense, because I feel like if I was reading this in an emotional state, I would have more to say, but I'm not. We're going to keep going and see what else the person has to say, and also keep following along with the story, because again, I know it just gets sadder and sadder. So I'm curious how the person's annotations are also going to change. We are on page 275, and I ran out of my first pink tab. So I feel like I'm definitely going to have to get more, because under one of the quotations, when the counselor is talking to Finch and talks to Finch about bipolar disorder, the person annotated that like they're not their illness either. So I'm assuming, you know, like they have either bipolar disorder or something similar that probably has a lot of stigmatization around it. And then the quote of my last pink tab is the person underlining the word everything's fine. And the person said, I know those words a little too well. Violet's saying everything's fine when she doesn't actually mean it. So I feel like that's the same for the person annotating it. So I feel like this is definitely, you know, again, I don't know if they saw the movie, then watched this or whatnot. I feel like they're definitely going to have more annotations, especially as we get closer and closer to the end of the book. I don't exactly know what those annotations are going to be, but I'm going to have to choose more to tab with. I feel like between pages like 100 and 200, they didn't have as many annotations because that was not exactly a happy part of the book, but I feel like the part where Violet was coming more out of her shell and there wasn't as many problems going on, but now that we're going back down that hill, I feel like the person's going to have more annotations. So I definitely want to be sure I keep track of those. Reading this, having my own like mental diagnosis, you could say, I think it's interesting to see how much has changed over the years in terms of mental health from when this book was written. I feel like mostly in a positive direction. I would definitely want to like compare this to the movie because I feel like I'm reading a lot of scenes that were not in the movie at all. All right, it's a few hours after my last clip and I have the new colors. They aren't perfect, but I feel like they'll be good enough. They kind of go with like this lighter color that I was using before. I feel like it's just gonna have to be close enough because I'm not waiting to get more pink tabs to finish the book because I also want to know what happens. Like we're almost in the last 100 pages. We are on 227. I literally have these two left of my old tabs for the Stranger's annotations. Now that I feel like we're getting closer to Finch losing his life, I feel like the mystery annotator is going to have more to say. So I definitely want to have these tabs handy. And I don't know, it might look cool. It'll kind of remind me the pink for like a sunrise and the orange for like a sunset. I don't know, maybe that's something cool. And then just the blue in between for me. So we're gonna keep reading. I am going to, you know, see, because like I said, I know what's coming, but I've heard, you know, that it's even worse in the book than it was in the movie because I'm pretty sure I cried to the movie. So I'll have to see what happens. Okay, so we are on page 342, and I'm not going to put a picture of this just for like this person's privacy, but we do end up getting a full name from the mystery annotator of the Alex that she's talking about. She changed a quote where it says, I'd like to live in a world designed by Theodore Finch to be about who she's been annotating this book about, which is, I don't know, I just think it's so sweet. I tried to do a little bit of research because I assumed that there'd be some like memorial foundation that I could donate to, and I didn't find anything in the area where I bought this book, but I don't know, I might keep trying to do some, because it'd be nice to just like, I don't know, donate something to the fund in honor of whoever, you know, annotated this book as just like, I don't know, a way to honor the experience that they went through or whatnot. I don't know if that's a silly idea, but I feel like it's something I'd want to do. So part of me is curious if this is like a breakup or if it is an actual like suicide. I'm not 100% sure anymore since I didn't find anything. Again, it could have been a while ago. This book was written in 2015. So like I said, I didn't really see anything like recent, but again, I don't know, who knows, but that is, you know, just what happens when you have someone else's annotations. You just learn a lot more than you were expecting, and I feel like this has made me appreciate this book in a whole different light than I would have without this person's annotations. And we did it. We reached the end of the book with all of our tabs. There is a page ripped out here, if you can kind of see. I did not rip it out. So I feel like I'm gonna like process this for like a day, and then I will come back with some final thoughts. All right, so we finished all the bright places with the strangers annotations. I do want to make these tabs nicer. I know they stick out a lot, but that's okay. I think overall it was a really interesting experience because it almost felt like a buddy read, but obviously very one-sided. I think, especially with this book and the emphasis on mental illness and whatnot, that it was really interesting to see somebody else's perspective, especially because I feel like the annotator was definitely in a lower place when they read this compared to where I am. But if I was in a similar place to them, I might have a more similar reaction to books. And I feel like it just shows me that reading is subjective. People have different tastes and you have different moods for different books. So I really appreciated going through this experience. I couldn't find any like memorial fund, couldn't find out any more information, but maybe one day something will happen. Who knows? Overall, I think it was an interesting experience. Do I think I'll look for books that have prior people's annotations? Maybe. It was kind of fun, but not 100% sure how many of those are just going to be in bookstores. Overall, really liked this. I am thinking about watching the movie and comparing the book to the movie. So let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in. Otherwise, if there are other books that I should try to find with annotations in it or other books I should read and talk about on here, just let me know.